Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be going over an interview that was done by WCCF Tech, and it was done with two individuals. Basically Sergey Kolganov, who is the lead game designer for Enlisted, and also Anton Yudintsev, who is of course the CEO of Gaijin. Now in this interview they talk about many different things when it comes to Enlisted, and also go over some things that are going to be happening in the future, which is why I'm personally covering it. After playing Enlisted for a decent amount of time, I'm pretty happy with where the game is at right now when it comes to its core gameplay. I will be doing a video soon going through my experiences when it comes to the invasion of Normandy and playing through that, but generally a lot of this interview is about the progression system and also moving forward with certain systems in the game which are much more core to it. The gameplay itself is pretty solid. The balancing is a bit all over the place, but progression has been one of the things that a lot of people have talked about. This is by Alessio Palumbo, and also there will be a link in the description, so if you want to read the interview for yourself, make sure to do so. Anyway, let's get into the first question. Enlisted has been in early access, preview or beta for a few months now. Can you discuss the feedback you got from players so far? And the answer is, we got a lot of feedback regarding problems with AI soldiers' behavior. Balancing AI is always a tricky thing, and it's especially important for Enlisted because of our signature AI Soldier Squad feature. It's not good when AI soldiers are stupid and are an easy prey for enemy players. On the other hand, it's also not good when they're too smart and fight too effectively, easily killing human players from a safe distance. We're very grateful to the closed beta participants that explained that they liked and what they liked and did not like about the AI soldiers. The latest patch finally generated quite positive feedback regarding the AI. So of course, in Enlisted, the way that the basic mechanics work is you have a squadron of soldiers. You control one of those squadron, and the rest are controlled by AI. You do get some very limited control of them by telling them to go to places or follow you and attack certain positions and so on and so forth, but generally the AI has to stand up on its own because the controls that you have over them are very, very small. So generally the AI has got better over time. When it came to the Battle of Moscow, when that was the only thing that was available, the AI was either way too good or running around like headless chickens. When it comes to the invasion of Normandy, and after the last few updates, I do have to agree the AI has improved. It still has a few issues here and there, and I think that's mainly based around the ranks of the AI and also the perks that the AIs get. Sometimes I still feel like I'm getting lasered from miles away or just randomly popped by somebody, but generally I would say it's on the right path. And because of this unique mechanic, this AI squad that you have following you around, it is incredibly important that they get that right, because that is the selling point of Enlisted. And at least right now, I would say it's on a very good track. Some players have voiced concerns about the character progression system and its random mechanics. Is this something that could get changed to something more straightforward? And the answer being, we heard those concerns as well. We're working on the update of the metagame in Enlisted right now, and one of our goals is to decrease the influence of random mechanics and to give players more control over the progression. Progression will still have some random elements, but they will be less important. I really hope so, because right now when it comes to Enlisted, it feels like a game which is built upon RNG or loot boxes. Pretty much everything in Enlisted can be upgraded, whether it's the infantry that you're using, the weapons that they're using, the actual squads that you're using as well. Pretty much everything in the game is designed to be upgraded, but when the actual idea idea of upgrading them is actually linked to RNG elements. So as an example, if you want to upgrade your gun from a 1-star to a 2-star, it takes so many of that gun's parts, and there is a percentage chance that the gun doesn't get upgraded, so you just lose all the parts and you don't get an upgraded gun. Then on top of that as well, if you have a soldier and it gets a perk set, let's say level 1, 2 or 3 perk, it can sometimes get perks that you don't want, and therefore you just get a worse soldier than somebody who randomly got better perks to choose from. Then also you have the academy system, which is actually a really cool system where you can put in 3 1-star people and get out a 2-star person. This is great, apart from the same problem, the RNG perks. Then you've also got the actual weapon drops and actual squad drops themselves, or not squad drops but infantry drops or player drops, where you click on them and you get random stuff out of them. Random weapons the majority of the time, random utility, random infantry members, random squadron members. Like on my American side of things, what I actually have is I have access to about 5 to 10 pilots, which I'm never going to use because they're all worse than my one pilot that I have. So therefore, I can either spend hours and hours, and I'm talking days of gameplay here, either getting these guys starred up to maybe eventually get a 4-star pilot, or maybe I get a random 4-star drop later down the line, which means that all of that effort I just put in negates that. And this is the general issue when it comes to Enlisted. Nearly everything when it comes to progression feels like it's tied to RNG, apart from the campaign itself, which is just based on a standard XP system. I really hope that they improve this, because it does feel as a player that you are rolling the dice every time you try these new things, and generally that will put players off, because if they don't get the right rolls they want, then they're just going to be annoyed and want to put down the game and go play something else, such as War Thunder, which doesn't have as random mechanics when it comes to the research of stuff in the game. I would also say personally there is an issue in Enlisted as well when it comes to the progression. The fact that everything in the game can be progressed or upgraded in some way, it ends up just becoming a click fest, where you end up just clicking after a battle a ton of different buttons to make sure that people have their right stars or their right perks, making sure that the right people have gone to the academy, making sure that you get, or at least you get your drops to see if, you want to attach some things, and if you want to remove somebody from a squad to put in somebody else with maybe more stars, or maybe you're upgrading certain infantry members, then you have to take off all the equipment from that one and put in another one, and it's just a big mess. It's one of the biggest issues I have with Enlisted in general, the fact that the UI itself, there is just so much clicking that is required to get through everything. I feel a lot of the time I'm spending more time outside a battle trying to get my squad sorted instead of inside battle actually fighting. The next one is one I've actually had asked quite a lot, at least to me personally, and thank God now that we actually have an answer. So the question is, are you planning to reset player ranks once the Enlisted beta is over? And the answer is yes. The progress will be wiped because of the metagame and other changes that will be incompatible with the existing CBT system. It's also important to level the field before bringing in a new audience so that both new and old players will be able to start from the same point. Obviously, players will still have all the content from packs they purchased or got via Twitch drops. We'll also give special rewards to all CBT participants. So this is actually pretty cool. I'm actually really happy that they're doing a wipe. I think it would be unfair for players like me who would have a distinct advantage over people who are new to the game on day one, because I would have access to squads which, well, they wouldn't have access to. It's kind of as simple as that. I mean, you don't want to be running around with your standard infantry squad and getting mortared to death, or getting annihilated by a tank that you really can't deal with. So the fact that they're wiping everything, I think is actually really good. good when it comes to War Thunder. They did this a few times, you know, with the ground early access, like the alpha access. They wiped progression actually a few times while they were testing out that stuff until it went into OBT, and I'm sure they'll probably do something similar with Enlisted. The fact that you're able to keep the content from the packs will still mean that CBT players will have a distinct advantage over people unless they keep those Founders packs around, but I doubt they will. And then the Twitch drops as well will give people a nice little bonus on top of that. So overall, this is a positive thing, and I'm glad we finally just have an answer to it, so therefore I'm able to let people know. You've turned on the crossplay feature with this new update. However, several console players are complaining that this is putting them at a disadvantage against PC players using mouse and keyboard. Could you add a way to only matchmake with players using gamepads, just like Call of Duty? And the answer is crossplay is enabled by default during the closed beta period for testing purposes. We'll reconsider this after CBT ends based on player feedback, and we'll think about your idea as well. Right now there is an option to turn crossplay off completely, and this option was there from the start. Turning it off will probably increase match waiting times though, so it's up to the players to decide what is more important for them right now. So the option is already there, it already exists, so there you go, issue solved. At the same time as well, obviously there will always be differences in performance when it comes to PC and when it comes to consoles, and the way that crossplay, the only way that it can work efficiently for a system to have, you know, this idea that they have different sets of matchmaking, so matchmaking for Xbox, matchmaking for PlayStation, matchmaking for PC, is if the player base gets big enough for those platforms. So therefore this will all be tied to if player population is big enough, therefore they will have their own matchmaking. If it isn't, then everyone's going to be lumped into one, and you'll be able to turn it off and then deal with the longer queue times. Obviously right now in a CBT stage you want shorter queue times, so therefore people can get into games. It's, you know, kind of as simple as that. The fact that they have the option in already though already solves this issue, so it's kind of a non-issue. What was it like to port the game to PlayStation 5 compared to your experience with the Xbox Series SX? Are there any meaningful differences between the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions? Both platforms are quite similar from a developer perspective, and they're also very close to PC as well, so porting the game to PS5 is pretty straightforward, and there is not much interesting to talk about. It's not like working on a port for PS3 with all those custom design processes when moving to a new platform was really a challenge. Basically, the PS5 version of Enlisted is the same as the version for Xbox Series X, while the version for Xbox Series S is also the same, but works in lower resolution. This is actually really nice to hear. It pretty much means that in the future, you know, development should be easier to do since the systems are pretty similar. Hopefully this means that there won't be too many big issues between the three separate sets of platforms, PC, Xbox and PlayStation, and everybody can get a similar version of the game, or even maybe the same version of the game. What do you think about the DualSense controller? Does Enlisted already use its unique features? Not yet. While we support basic rumble features, we're not utilizing unique functionality that the DualSense controller provides. Right now we're focusing on polishing the gameplay features first and foremost, but we're looking forward to harnessing the power of DualSense controllers in the future to make sure the PS5 players will get more customized experience of Enlisted. And that's really nice to hear. You know, I hear a lot of the times, and actually watch like dev streams every so often from certain companies where they're really focusing on like the little minute things instead of the overall gameplay experience. This is something that we've seen quite a lot when it comes to a ton of games where they do a ton of really small things really well, but the overall game is either really boring or it's just messed because of either progression or it's messed because of AI features, or it's just messed because it just doesn't feel fun to play. But hey, this unicorn over here has really high fidelity, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't really match up. So the fact that they've put it down here, that they're going, right, we're polishing gameplay, then we'll focus on the extra stuff, that is just really nice to hear, and definitely good that it's coming out. The next question is, a few months ago you told us that DirectML support was under exploration. Can you give us any updates on that topic? And this is actually the first answer from Anton, and it's a pretty simple one. Sorry! I have nothing new to say about DirectML today. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. If you don't know what DirectML is, it's kind of interesting. It's touted as a high-performance, hardware-accelerated DirectX 12 library for machine learning. It's supposed to provide GPU acceleration for common machine learning tasks across a broad range of supported hardware and drivers, including all DirectX 12 capable GPUs from people such as AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, and also Qualcomm. So it's just something that speeds up your processes without having to, you know, take a hit on the general power. So pretty much it's an efficiency thing. Now, if it's anything like DLSS, I would like to throw it out the window, since DLSS, at least in Enlisted and also in War Thunder, makes the game look really bad right now. I would actually advise everybody to turn off their DLSS, just because the software, or whatever they're using, is just not there yet. It just makes everything look incredibly blurry, which obviously isn't great for an FPS or a online MMO at all. The next question is also Direct related. In our previous chat, you also mentioned that DirectX 12 Ultimate features would be coming in 2021 from Xbox Series to PC. Do you have a time frame for that? And Anton says, DX12 Ultimate support in drivers is currently not that good, although rapidly enhancing. Just in December, one of the vendors released drivers that had broken some of the features completely. They have fixed that in the next version based on our feedback, but still this case shows that it is at a raw stage yet. As it is already available on Xbox Series, it is not an issue for us to enable that on PC as soon as we see it is stable enough. We're working with vendors to ensure it is happening as soon as possible. So DirectX 12, it's the newest version of the API and also the new gold standard for the next generation of games, according to NVIDIA themselves, who are developing it. It's basically designed to support ray tracing, mesh shaders, variable rate shading, and also sampler feedback. Now, if the technology isn't there yet, or if the technology has issues, I would personally rather they held off on it just for now, just to wait until it gets better, and then they can implement it. Generally, I already think Enlisted looks really good. It looks very bright, it looks very vibrant, everything about it looks very nice to look at, so I don't think, these new, game-making technologies are needed right now. Once again, I would rather they focus on the core gameplay, and that seems to be what they're doing. And then the big question. Do you plan to release the 1.0 version of Enlisted before the end of this year? What else can players expect to find in the full version in terms of content compared to the beta? And the answer: we're pretty sure that we'll move from closed beta to open beta this year. I can also assure you that the players will be getting new campaigns and a lot of new vehicles and weapons this year as well. The recent addition of the Normandy campaign is a good example of what that actually means. So they have 4 campaigns already which are on the way, and I'm wondering if they actually want to get out all of these campaigns before the OBT starts. I'll be incredibly surprised about that, but then that will at least give us an inkling on what they're looking at. We have the Battle for Moscow, which was the first one which we saw in CBT, the Invasion of Normandy, which is now also there, so you can play both of these campaigns right now if you get yourself a Founders Pack. Then you've got the Battle of Tunis, which is going to be Britain versus Germany and North Africa. That should be really fun. And then also the Battle of Berlin, which we alpha tested a while back. So these 4 campaigns, I'm guessing they're planning on getting all these ready for when Enlisted releases. That would be incredibly surprising. You know, I'm not going to lie, that would be pretty impressive. And the fact that they're aiming to get it into open beta this year means that it will be available for everyone, hopefully in the next few months, maybe 3 to 6 months or a little bit more than that. Whatever happens, it is an exciting time to be interested in this project, and at least from my point of view, I'm going to be streaming it a little bit more, I'm going to be talking about it a little bit more, keeping you guys up to date with it to see what is going on. As always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hosest Kishol, Hans, Bareen, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.